me and my assistant and my students.
This meeting is being recorded.
We have a total of 5 students. And of course, there have been changes kind of happening within my department as far as referring students. Of course, we all dealt with the issues that came along with the pandemic and having students who really need that one-on-one support. It was difficult, especially with keeping those reading and writing skills where we were seeing more progress. That has always been a challenge in the classroom anyway for my students. And we usually focus on books that give illustrations because it helps them to make a connection with the text. And so this was different. And so I want to just, take you on the journey of how we kind of got this going and began this shared read aloud. One of the things we focus on is a character review. And so this helped the students really to look at the characters in a deeper way and make those personal connections. We looked at the characters' challenges from the beginning to the end, how their relationship developed with each other, between the main characters. And we also talked about how we could relate to the book on a personal level with the character, one of the main characters having a learning difference. And then also finding as we move through the read that other students came forward with, some of those same issues. We then, how we tie that into creating that engagement between the family and the students, and of course with me as well, was 6 essential questions. And so we looked at 6 essential questions and discussed those. And of course, having that character review, it made the discussion so much better because the students really understood the characters, their traits, how they felt in the beginning versus in the end, and made those connections or build those relationships, not only with their peers, but also with the teacher. And so the students then responded to those questions and they took those journals home to their parents or caregivers, and they responded to their students' response. So the students were actually able to discuss that question in detail because they had a pretty good understanding of what was going on with that character. So now I'm going to share some of the work samples from the character review. So this is what the character review looked like. So we, of course, started with Allie, who is the main character, and we kind of did this together, which is why it's typed in. And the students, had a chance to really start off with a model, which is very important in my classroom. So they could see what we wanted or what I wanted or what, the activity required. And so we started like this. And then as we move on, we look at other characters that were also in the story. And as you can see, this also created not only discussion about the book and also writing. So writing was really important because that is something we struggle with. So it was, difficult. And I wanted to just kind of show that, it wasn't easy for them, but they were able to pull through. And because they had this personal connection, they really talked about this book, guys. Like they talked about this particular character and how he was kind of grounded and really knew himself, and he didn't allow people to bully him. And they even talked about, and this would be the main character's brother in the book, they talked about him being very supportive and encouraging. They related that to maybe someone in their family. This was really a big discussion, being the character in the book, who was the bully. And, you know, they came up with physical and character traits about her and what they thought they were, you know, inferring and just predicting all over the place what they thought the outcome would be with this character. And it was nice to see a character in a book like this, because in the end, as we move forward, we start to see this character is realizing that these kids are great too. And that even though they have these challenges, they actually have something to offer to the classroom. So she kind of gained this newfound respect for them. Uh, then we also went into like our journals. Let me, hold on one moment. Sorry, guys. So,
Monique, I think you just need to share your screen again. It must have.
oh, it's not sharing. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
it just
sorry,
started
guys.
not sharing. Something, I don't know what happened, but.
Okay. Hold on. I'm sorry.
You're fine. You're fine.
I just lost it. Okay. Okay.
Good. We can see it now. Monique, are you able to get your slideshow back up? There you go. I see a student sample now. Hey, Monique, I don't know if you're talking or not, but I can't hear you. Maybe I think you're still muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So this is the Family Engagement Journal. And so here are the 6 essential questions, starting out looking at how the main character, Allie, it had changed for her from the beginning to the end. The students responded if they felt like it's kind of stayed the same or things kind of changed for her. And as you can see, the parents responded to that. This was a great activity because I had a lot of parents respond to this book. You know, they also thought it was a great read. A lot of parents also, well, I had one parent who chose to purchase the book. So I thought that was really great. Again, here's another question about who her hero was. And there again, the student responded and the parents did as well. And then how other students who were struggling and had problems, how they dealt with it. And so again, the students we've read books before about characters that had challenges with either social interaction or even academic. This was more real for them for some reason, because I don't know. I guess, like I said before, a lot of the reads we used in the classroom have those illustrations. So, you know, you have your animal characters and different things like that. But this one, really, they felt like they were the characters. I had a student who really felt deeply connected to a character. His name was Olive. Well, actually, it was the main character. And being that she had the challenge of dyslexia, this is actually something I discussed with his parent at the beginning of the year, that she felt it was something she needed to address with the doctor and possibly get him assessed. So he had a real connection, really, and learning from the teacher in the book about how there were people like Albert Einstein who had, you know, dyslexia, and other celebrities and things like that. So it really encouraged him to keep pushing and not giving up. So again, one of the other questions, and as you can see, the parent response. And again, I told you writing is a challenge. So of course we have to give those accommodations and, you know, just help the students. And then just keeping in mind is different ways to express learning, and, you know, sometimes being able to discuss it in a deep thought and really understand what's going on. It shows that the students got it, you know. Okay. Let me get back over here. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
And so this is some of the responses from the parents. And I thought it was wonderful. I'm not going to read it to you, but, you know, as you can see, it kind of not only poured over from the classroom to the parents, but as you can see, one parent also addressed that with our addressed it with an occupational therapist about, you know, how she could incorporate what he's learned in this book in their sessions. So I thought that was awesome. Another parent felt it really brought her closer to her student or her child, and really understanding how some students may feel sitting in the classroom and having those learning problems, and how she felt it made her or motivated her to encourage him or help him as much as she could at home. And so in conclusion, you know, I had a wonderful experience with my class. It was definitely a personal connection for me as well, having children of my own with, you know, disabilities. And I feel like the students really related to Allie's challenges and the other characters. And it also taught them, when sitting in the classroom, you know, what's appropriate as far as social and emotional, you know, developing those social and emotional skills when dealing with their peers, and having to deal with bullies or people that are pointing out your weakness and how to overcome that. And so it was a great read. I also feel that the journal itself had a great impact, because, you know, usually family engagement is kind of low. And so with this, you know, we saw parents really getting involved, you know, and to the point where they wanted to have the book themselves. So I really believe each year we'll do something like this. I'm really proud of my boys too, because, you know, going from books that mostly give you illustrations where you can make that connection to really being able to sit there and read a couple of chapters of this book, you know, each day and have a thoughtful discussion. I'm so proud of them. I also feel it's an effective tool across settings that, you know, this can also be done in, you know, in a regular classroom as well to create a family engagement. So, you know, overall, it was a great experience and I really appreciate it. And I'm glad I was able to share that book with my class.
Okay, thank you so much, Monique. I don't think I had another presenter. I don't think that they have shown up, but it's okay. I am so sorry. I have Emily, and I'm just going to share my screen so that you guys can view that. So, okay, here we go. Hear this? One second.
Okay. It's EMWAB 00.
Hi, my name's Emily Weirdy, and I'm a first grade
Can you hear
teacher
it?
at Miners Lane Elementary School. I'm actually on maternity leave right now, which is why you are seeing a video of me. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy it. My project is called Becoming Authors, Creative Writing in First Grade. Goal of my project was to teach my kids to love writing because I was hearing the words I can't a lot in the fall, and I wanted to teach them that they could. So my goal was to teach them to write a short story that had a beginning, a middle, and an end. Another goal was to increase parent engagement by having students share their short stories with their families. So I started with a gradual release process because starting with a 3-part story would have been too much, especially because student confidence, in their writing was pretty low. So I started with creative writing prompts such as this, and they focus either on the character or setting. So, for example, in this one, I give them a setting and they have to come up with the character that goes along with it. So they had to draw and write about a person, animal, or creature who lived in this house. And you'll notice these little audio buttons here. This is a cool system I found where I can read the instructions and pre-record them so that when the students get the assignment, they just click here and it reads the instructions to them. And it became a huge time saver. So if you want to learn how to do this, stick around to the end of the presentation and I have step-by-step instructions for you teaching you how to do that. I would highly recommend it. So let's look at some student examples of this work or of this assignment. And this is from mid-September, so towards the beginning of the year still. You can see there are 3 examples here of varying skill level. And notice how none of the students wrote a sentence with their picture. Notice here that was part of the assignment. So that's something we really struggled with at the beginning of the year. After that, we did plenty of those for practice. I gave them a picture that could be an event at the beginning of their story. They had to just write or draw and write what happened next. So, for example, a fox and a duck are in a hot air balloon, and they have to tell what happened next to the fox and the duck. I said, remember, do not just copy this picture because the first time we did this, the students all just copied the picture. So we had to redo it and talk about how they're not drawing this, they're drawing what happened next. So this is from early October. Now, sometimes I didn't get to meet with the students to record in adult spelling what their story says, and I'll talk more about that in the challenges section. So I'm not sure what this story says, but you'll notice how the student is not really separating the words yet with spaces, and they're not using punctuation either. The student says, I went to a carnival, and this is a good example of the invented spelling here. And the fox and the duck fall out. A stronger sentence here. Notice how all 3 of them have no punctuation. So after we did a bunch of those for practice, the students were ready to write 2 parts of the story. So I gave them a beginning and they did a middle and the end. I'm actually not going to share student work from this example because I'm running out of time. So this example though, what the beginning was a cat and a dog in a boat, and then they had to say what happened in the middle and what happened at the end. And we started that around mid-October and we did many practices of that. Then finally, the students were ready to write all 3 parts of their story, the beginning, middle, and end. So it was early November when we got to the point, and I had to pick and choose which examples to show you guys, but I wanted to share that I'm really proud. Throughout the year, my students wrote 12 full stories with a beginning, middle, and end, and I'm so proud of their hard work. So I did go ahead at the beginning and pick characters and setting for them, just because I didn't want to jump too far in the gradual release process. So we started out with having characters and setting given to them. So here their characters are a fox and a cow, and the setting is in the city. And this was from early November. So let's look at some examples from this. This student says, "We found a fox. The fox was following us." And this is a good example of a student who uses the magic line. Fox and cow play soccer, and they hug and they run. Another student said, "The fox and cow want to save the heart balloon." A good example of the magic line here. Now, once in a while, for my English language learners, if we were running out of time and they had really good ideas, I would jot down their thoughts for them with the hope that we would go back and write the sentence together. It was rare, though, that I would allow a student to dictate to me. The student said they went to the zoo and they saw a giraffe, monkey, and cheetah. The zookeeper was sick. And I picked this example because I wanted to show how some students struggle to connect their beginning to their middle. Here she's talking about a heart balloon, and here she's talking about going to the zoo, and it's almost like two separate stories. Like they're not connecting at all. And same with her end. They went to the cafe. So that's something we worked on throughout the year, is making sure there's a flow between your beginning, middle, and end. This student I chose because he has some great spelling here. The alligator was trying to eat us. We're still working on getting our sentence at the bottom of the page, which was the goal. The shark was trying to eat the fox and the cow. Really good inventive spelling here. This is a bit of a more advanced example. They were going in a princess car, but they were running to the princess car. Now, this student I didn't always get to meet with because she was one of my more advanced students, so I could often read her writing without asking her what she wrote. But here I'm missing a couple words. She said, "They are now something because the car was something too far." And the end is very tragic ending. The car ran into them and now they are dead. Very good spelling, though. Like, by spelling, I mean writing the sounds she hears. So after we did a bunch of those, now I just gave them a character and gave them some freedom on the setting. So for this one, this was in late January. We had a penguin and an orca whale. And notice how I gave them the word penguin and I gave them the word orca whale so that they could have some confidence in at least spelling those words on their writing. So here are a couple examples of these. Oh, sorry. There we go. There we go. This is one of my newcomers. So I didn't get to meet with him to hear his story. In the beginning, he is doing a great job separating his words with spaces, but then not so much in his middle. He is having a good grasp of punctuation, though. The student said, "Penguin, orca, whale are swimming, and penguin, orca, whale play ball." You can tell they're used to copying the words that I give them, like the character names, but they didn't string them together with like the words the and. So that's something that the student needs to work on. The penguin is getting the orca whale. In the middle, the penguin got on the orca whale. And in the end, orca eat the penguin. I chose this example because his beginning, middle, and end are somewhat related to each other. So that shows that some of the students were understanding that concept more than others. Finally, the penguin is so sad because her friend is leaving. And the penguin is confused. Why is there home in the water? So again, strong writing here in terms of her words, but not so much with the content connecting from the beginning to the middle. All right, the final project of the year was for students to write their own story completely. They got to choose their own characters, their own settings, and events. So we'll look at a couple of those. We did this in early March, and here's what their assignment looked like. So one example says, "A cat is asleep on me." This student really struggled to come up with her own ideas, and I worked with her to write the sound she hears because she really struggles to work independently. The next page said, "The cats eat." Another student said, "I went to the fair and I lost my car." You can see that she's doing great spacing out her words, but the number of words she wrote and the number of words I wrote don't match. So something's off there. But still improving. Now I found my car and I went outside and found my mom's car is upside down. And I worked with her on writing the sound she heard on this one. A different student, this is one of my most improved students throughout the year. I found a robot in my room. He had loose parts and I fixed it. Really great spelling here, writing the sounds he heard. I brought the robot to the park to play and I raced home with my robot. I went in the bed and got cozy. And I love how all three of his parts are about the same topic. They flow well together. This is a great example. Finally, a bunny and a turtle, they were at a desert. A bow and arrow came out of the sky and shot me and Wilson and killed us, and we turned into animals. I love this example because it's very creative and it has really good example of the inventive spelling, like the word animals right here. Very nice. And a shark was eating Wilson and I saved Wilson. Notice Wilson saying, "Help, help." All right, so those are my student work examples. Sorry, my computer's being slow. Okay, so here's some of the challenges I faced. I had a hard time figuring out when I could give feedback to the students. Sometimes I used reading workshop time, like maybe the last rotation, and sometimes I used win time, which is our intervention time. But realistically, sometimes students just didn't get feedback on their stories, which isn't great, but it's just kind of the way it is. As a teacher, you know, time is tight. So another challenge I faced is that when we were conferencing together, many of the students forgot what they had written and couldn't read it back to me. So I tried to have them read their picture. I tried to help them by reading the sounds that they had written. And sometimes if they were totally stuck and they hadn't written a lot, I would just help them write a new sentence for their story. The biggest challenge I faced was the family engagement piece. I had a couple issues here. How could students share with their families if they couldn't read their own stories? And how could students' families help them read their stories with A, the invented spelling, and B, many families, more than half of my families, having a language barrier. So I tried just sending stories to the kids, and many just didn't read them at all to their families. And many, even if I had written in the adult spelling underneath, many of my parents speak English, so me writing that spelling didn't help. And then I even tried to video record the students reading their stories aloud. But it turned out to not be a sustainable solution because it took almost a week of reading workshop just to record each student. So I went ahead and completed that task for their digital backpacks, but it wasn't something we could do every time. So unfortunately, the project unintentionally became an at-school project and didn't involve their families as much as I had hoped. But if I were to do it again next year, I might compile their stories somehow and do like a creative writing night where their parents could come in and they could have some support with reading their stories to their family members. And maybe also try to get some parent involvement in the classroom more, like volunteering to help help record the students' writing as we go along throughout the year. Okay, so a couple other challenges I faced, and this is the technology part, was explaining the activities was taking way too much reading workshop time. And so this is why I came up with the audio recording solution. So I'm not going to have time to read through these slides for you. So what I'll do is I'll stop on each slide, and if you're interested in learning how to do this, you can pause the video and look through the steps and learn how to do it. And then, yeah, and learn how to do it through looking at each of the slides. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Oh, sorry, it went too fast. Okay, we'll go back to here. Okay, this seems really, really complicated, but I promise once you learn how to do it, it goes really fast. And it's so worth it. It's made my kids feel really independent. They can do the whole activity on their own. The kids who need it can listen to the instructions more than once. And it's just been really, really successful in my class. So I hope it works for you. And thank you so much for your time and attention and for watching my presentation. Thanks.
Okay, I apologize that all right, I apologize that the last one was just a video, but if you do have questions for anyone, you can go ahead and do those now, or if not, you can go on to your next sessions.